This is the award-winning Car Talk Show in real time, your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Konrad DeLong, and Jeffrey Zekin. Don Armstrong here. Glad that you could join us. Jeff's sitting a little bit off camera, but he's here.
Off is the key word.
And I also want to point out that the Suze is joining us this morning right down there, knocked out on the floor. Not knocked out. I mean, she's sleeping down there, but you get the point. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us today. Right now we're going to talk to our good friend, Professor Jonathon Couch, couch racing and high school shop teacher. Jonathon, it's good to see you as always, and we really appreciate you joining us. Are you in Ennis today?
No, I was in Ennis yesterday. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you
wonderful.
fine. Yeah.
So
okay, great.
You're in your shop, it looks like.
I am.
Well, what are you doing in there besides talking to us?
Well, I ran out to H&P this morning, and they said they didn't have the data to support the show today, so I had to run home, and I just decided to do it here.
Wow.
They didn't have the data to support the show. Well, I don't know what that means.
They didn't have
The internet.
Wi-Fi strong enough.
Oh, I see. I got you.
Well, we appreciate you thinking of that.
And you ran all the way back home
No
just
problem.
to join us. Well, how nice. That's very thoughtful of you. We appreciate it because it would have been no big deal for you to
Anything
call
for
us
you
up.
guys.
Thank you.
Well, you know, one of the things we really want to mention is, you know, we had Sarah on and Ashley on, and she talked about, you know, her relationship
Ashley.
and how you had passed her on upward into the automotive industry and the engineering industry coming out of your class. But we know that you're also doing something with the Texas Short Track Racing Series.
That's right, we are. We've had, it's been a rocky year with COVID and everything, but with even in all of that, with all the turmoil of the year, we've been able to provide them some pit crew help out there at the racetrack, which has worked out really good for the classroom as well, building an interest with the students in motorsports and those kinds of things. So hoping to keep it alive. And boy, never has there been a time we needed it more. The NHRA race yesterday at Ennis was a ghost town. I mean, there just wasn't anybody there, and that scares me. But yeah, moving forward, you guys wanted me to talk about racing engines today, which seems appropriate. October's been a pretty strong month in motorsports. So what was there anything specific you guys wanted me to talk about, or you just want me to start talking and kind of steer me?
Well, yeah, go ahead. You can talk because we know that you build some pretty well-known racing engines here in the Houston market. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in the shop right now. What do you? I hear a machine cutting something in the background.
That's just the VFD running. So this is where horsepower is born. This is my baby, the guidance seat machine. Mine's rigged up with a VFD so I can control motor speed through frequency. So I maintain max torque, even though the motor's changing speeds. It's a handy thing you can do with three-phase. So here's on the machine. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but it's a 993 casting for a round track car. The rules are pretty tight in those, so that's probably where I'll begin. When you're building racing engines, in any case, you have to first ask what's going to be the purpose of that engine. What are we going to do with it? You know, and then the second thing you have to do is pick up the rule book, and you start figure out how you're going to outsmart the rule book. And so in this case, for example, the cylinder head is limited to a 194-150 valve. It has to be an open chamber casting, and any machine work done to the cylinder head has to be done with a 360-degree cut, and the guide is the center point. So a couple of hints: they don't tell you what part of the guide has to be the center point, and they gave me 343 thousandths to work with, so that's helpful. But it's got some pretty big bowl cuts in it that I've just finished, and the valve seats all have a racing profile on them, and so that lends the question, right? What's the difference between a racing valve job and a repair? Well, if we're working on grandma's grocery getter, I have one setup. I have one cutter with one set of angles on it, one specific profile, and I can go through the seats, and the only thing that changes is the valve diameter, seat to seat, intake and exhaust. With racing, everything has to be custom tailored to what I'm expecting to do with the car. So in racing, obviously, we want max airflow. I also need the valves to seat well. So there's a balancing act there and things you have to do to the valve seat to ensure that, especially at high RPM and especially when the valve seat's taking a pounding. Not something grandma's car is going to see very often. Well, I don't know. Maybe your grandma. But I'm not allowed to do any port work to it. Otherwise, I could get more airflow. So all the tricks and games I have to play are in the area of the valve and the valve seat and the valve pocket itself. So I spend a lot of time there.
Does it make any difference in these engines whether you're running a quarter mile, a 3/8 mile, or a half mile oval?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So a quarter mile, you stand on it once. It's got to go down the racetrack full hard and get there quick. In a 3/8 mile oval, we've got shorter straightaways, tighter corners, so we need a lot of torque jumping out of the corner, especially turn 4 and 2. And then it's got to carry that momentum down the straightaway, so it's got to live the length of the straightaway long enough to get to the next corner. What goes on in the corner is up to the chassis man. That doesn't have much to do with me. Although when you do slide, you got to kick the rear wheels out in dirt racing. And in short track, it's different because the car sticks. And so there again, you build them different, even paved versus dirt. In a half-mile track, you've got to have a whole lot more camshaft. And hopefully the person building the car's got enough gear in it to get you down the straightaway. And then entering the corner again, getting back out of the corner is the hard part. Do we have the torque? What RPM range are we playing with? You don't want to overcam the car to where you're having to tote the camshaft for a while till you get the RPMs up to get in your torque range. So you need to make sure that whatever you're exiting the corner at, the RPMs are in the correct place for the camshaft.
Jonathan, let me interrupt here just for a second and ask the question, and that is that I've been listening to these engines out there at Houston Motorsports Park, which is a 3/8 mile track, and there are a lot of cars that hit the rev limiter right at the end of the straightaway, and some just barely touch the rev limiter. It seems to me that they're kind of missed the real setup if they have to hit the rev limiter too early on before the end of the straightaway. Am I wrong on that, or how do you work that?
So to kind of confirm your suspicion, anytime we hit the rev limiter, that is an anomaly. That's not good. That's not what we want, because when you hit the rev limiter, now you're wasting energy that you could have used.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Right.
You've outspun the capability of the engine at that point. But furthermore, to kind of lend some credit to the guys that built the car, built the engine, built the chassis, you have to build the car around the driver. And so the combination has to match the person driving more so than, it's not the engine builder's fault. It's not the chassis guy's fault. It's not whoever put the rear end together. The combination of the car has to work with whoever's sitting in the driver's seat. So if he got on the gas way too early in the turn and perhaps lost traction, or even just rode the brakes real hard coming in and then punched it way too early, he'll run out of straightaway, or he'll run out of motor before he runs out of straightaway. And that doesn't carry you well into the next corner. That doesn't set you up well for the next corner and getting through it. It just becomes an escalation at that point of just bad things happening.
Let's talk more about this right on the other side of the break, if that's okay with you, because I really want to explore that a little bit further. So stay with us. This is the In Wheel Time Car Show. We're back after this quick break.
911, what's your emergency?
God, there's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would you do that? The train still hasn't stopped. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
Advance Auto Parts and CarQuest present the Boobs Rock Powder Puff Race. Saturday night, October 17th at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 5. The green flag waves at 6. Wear a mask. Social distancing and sanitizer rules. Enjoy $1 hot dogs and $1 beer. $5 discount ticket info online at NASCARHouston.com. Saturday night, October 17th. Gates at 5. Racing at 6. Houston Motorsports Park. All car classes, including the Boobs Rock Powder Puff Race, supporting breast cancer awareness. It's the last race of the season. Boobs Rock. Don't miss it.
Hey, thanks for joining us for today's In Wheel Time Car Show. Talking to Jonathon Couch, and he is the motor guy, the car guy out at Klein Forest High School.
And the mentor of all of these students he's got out there. When I was out there last year for his car show, you could really see he's got a great relationship with the students, and they have a lot of respect for him.
So, Jonathon, how many kids do you have out there at Houston Motorsports Park tonight working with the guys out there at the track?
The rumor had it 4 of them were going to make it, maybe more than that. They're teenagers, so it's hard to nail them down with it.
Well, I know.
I'm hoping to have 4 of them, and 4 that are going are really, really good, so they should be fine.
And do you set them up with teams? Is that how that works? How does it work exactly?
No, Gina assigns them, and then most of the races, if I have a student there, I'll be there too, just to watch them and make sure that there's nothing I can do to kind of adjust their habits or kind of help them get in with because even though they're teenagers and they seem obnoxious, they're still really shy when they're building new relationships. They don't know how to break the ice yet. So I try to help them with that and try to help them explain the pace of the racetrack is very different than the pace of the shop at school. Everything is a split-second decision. You've got to be on your toes. You've got to be aware of what's going on around you and those kinds of things. So I try to be there to coach them through all of that because it is a culture shock for them. They're not used to having to think and work that fast and then try to make a decision and get through it that quickly. So, and then also just if, working on race cars, you've got to think 10 steps ahead. Whereas when you're working on the car in the shop, it's just what you focus on what you're doing right this second. So.
Are you taking any of the kids to the drag race next weekend?
I'm on the fence. I had the field trip set up for Friday, but if Friday in Houston is kind of a repeat performance of what I saw in Ennis this past weekend, I'm not really excited about that.
Yeah.
And on Saturday, they won't, as far as I know. I'm going to contact the NHRA this week and see if we can work something out. But if I can get them in Saturday, I'll definitely take them Saturday, but Friday's in the air. We normally go every year in the fall. I'll normally take them to Ennis for the senior trip.
Right.
But this year, there just wasn't enough time and started school about 3 weeks late. And so we just started together in time. But the plan right now is to go on Friday. If I'm going to look at the schedule real close, and if the festivities, the good stuff, don't start till late, we may leave after school and just go.
How many semesters of education do you offer in your classes out there?
So it's now a 4-year program, a full 4-year program.
Oh, wow. How great is that?
Yeah,
that's awesome. So I can take shop class all the way from my freshman year all the way through senior.
If you survive it.
Well, Don's still looking to graduate from high school, so he may take you up on that.
What's high school?
Night classes.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
but that's really good. I mean, not only for people that what we used to call a shade tree mechanic, but guys that get that involved in, I would think, are looking at a career.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't teach the class for shade tree. I teach it like you're going to do something in the automotive industry. And with my credential and my background, whatever you want to know, I'll teach you. So I've got kids. I'll just give you some examples if that's okay with you guys. I've got kids right now working on restoring the hood to a Ford 8N tractor from like the 20s with a flathead 4-cylinder. And all they want to know is body work. So here's some sheet steel. Go bang on this, put in some filler, fill the hole, shoot some paint on it. And then at the other end of the spectrum, I had a kid with a 72 Mustang come in with a 351 modified transplant. Now it's modified heads on a Cleveland block, which is common and these days advisable with pump gas. And he had a rash of broken push rods. Well, the car had set up for a long time and all the valves were seized in the guides. So I was able to convert our vertical mill to do the same thing this guide and seat machine does at school. So the kids are getting to see the full spectrum of engine machining and a racing profile valve seat all the way down to the bodywork side and everything in between. And of course, we're still taking on the mom and pop jobs. We're building a Jeep from the ground up, chassis off deal. We blasted the chassis and sprayed it, and we just got the body back the other day. So the kids are getting the full spectrum as much as I can teach them. And if they ask me anything specific, I'm happy to tell them what to do or which way to go or here's how that works. And
well, Yeah, you're providing them such a well-rounded opportunity of, running a shop like an independent repair shop, running a race shop, running a body shop, giving them the opportunity on the machining side of things. I know we talked about welding as well. You're giving them lots of choices of a future.
Well, they get to see and experience all these different aspects of it. That
which
when
one
I went
catches
to school,
their fancy. Yeah.
We didn't even have an auto shop back then. We had a wood shop, I think. So they can kind of see. I don't particularly care for the body work, but I do love the machine work, or I do love this, or I do love this. And I want to focus on that, and I think that's great.
Yeah. Anywhere they find anywhere that's a career where they could get out of there and do it for a living. If they're interested in doing it, I'll teach them.
Well, but that's the thing. They got to know that opportunity exists. So you're showing them.
One of the mysteries to me was a guy that did upholstery work. Now, I know that sounds strange, but I watch these car shows on Motor Trend TV where that upholstery guy is just as talented as the guy that does valve guides and heads. I mean, but it's in a different kind of way. I mean, that is a real school of art that you got going there. Do you teach that sort of thing too?
I do if it comes up. I haven't had anyone come asking for any upholstery work. Now, I am limited in what I can do. I can't do button tufting. I can't sew the seat covers together myself or any of that. But if someone's wanting to do, carpet, of course, that's no problem. Cutting carpet's not a big deal. And even other interior accessories or anything like that they want to do that's upholstery related.
Yeah, just teaching somebody how to get the door panels off without tearing them up is a good thing.
Well,
to know.
that, and I mean, put like, for instance, putting in a tachometer in a car that really doesn't really have one per se. I mean,
and then not just putting it in, but making it look right when you're done is the
yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's good to know that it's a fully rounded course that you teach out there. Where are your seniors right now? Your fourth year students, where are they in your program right now?
So I've got two seniors this year, and I know that sounds bad, but we just kicked off the 4-year program 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Gone through my first batch of freshman students that are now juniors. And so that batch will hit their senior year next year. So I've got a big junior class. And unfortunately, that meant some seniors some kids that are seniors now didn't get to enjoy the experience because we had to shift everything down a year. It was just a transition time periods. Yeah. I had 2 that snuck in. And both of them are well on their way to heading towards higher ed, much like Ashley did. The one girl I have, Tanya, her dad owns a performance shop, and he's wanting her to work with him, I think. And she has an interest in building racing engines, so I've been showing her the tooling and sort of the culture of racing, introducing her to characters like Smokey Unick and those kinds of guys that sort of pioneered a lot of this and a lot of the way we think today.
Well, Smokey was known to pioneer the edges of the rule book.
That's right. The gray area where we all operate now.
Yeah, exactly. What is your male to female ratio there in the makeup of all your classes?
Let's see. I'll claim 85 students, even though 81 are enrolled. There's 4 that just hang out in there because they love auto tech and they couldn't get in for various reasons. Out of the 81 I have enrolled, I have 2 females right now. And last year I had the highest female count at like 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly, but it's pretty skewed. It's pretty skewed one way.
Well, John,
I would love.
Go ahead.
I'd love to see more girls get involved, but I'm sure there's an intimidation factor walking into the boys' club and trying to shake things. You've got to be the right girl for it, especially right now to put the boys in the place.
But I'll share something with you from my perspective out in the automotive industry, the repair facilities. Women have a true advantage over men on the side of management and service advising because they have an ability to explain things, I think, a little bit more understandably than...
Or at least a willingness to.
Jonathan, it's great to talk to you. We're run out of time. See you tonight at Houston Motorsports Park. Thanks so much for joining us and giving us an education here on the N-Wheel Time Show. We appreciate it.
No problem. See you next time.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Hey, you've got something to say? Open the cutouts and let us know. All you have to do is shoot us an email, info@inwheeltime.com. Splash and go. And we're back with Konrad's Car Clinic after this.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You're on the In-Wheel Time Car Show. Thanks for riding with us today. Time now for Konrad's Car Clinic, and we're going to talk about making deposits.
Well, you know, in an engine, there's kind
so
of
many different things.
And that's why I'm going to go ahead and go straight
to the bank or something.
You know, there's two kinds of deposits basically that are made inside of your engine. There's an oil-based deposit and there's a fuel-based deposit. And this article I gathered from a friend of mine, Dustin Wilhite, and I thought it was pretty informative. Go ahead and start the video. You know, usually the question is, what's the difference between an oil-based deposit and a fuel-based deposit? And if you kind of look at it, and let's make it in a simple terms, an oil-based deposit would be like a molasses deposit. A fuel-based deposit would be like a sweet tea. So if you boiled that molasses in on heat, it would leave that deposit on the back of that intake valve like that. And that creates all kinds of drivability concerns inside the engine. And then a fuel-based deposit is kind of like boiling sweet tea. And by the time it's all gone, really most of it is evaporated out, and what's left is a little bit softer deposit to clean up and not as hard. So you've got to know what kind of deposits are inside the engine as far as what action you're going to take to clean it. Generally, fuel deposits accumulate quickly, and with the right chemistry can be cleaned up relatively easy. Oil-based deposits create a much harder deposit because when the oil evaporates out, there's a much more heavy carbon deposit left behind that's a lot more difficult to clean up, and it takes a different kind of cleaner to clean it up. And one cleaner doesn't clean up both deposits, even though they're both hydrocarbon. As you apply heat to them, the deposit itself changes significantly. So oil-based deposits, where does that oil come from that's in the engine? Basically, it comes from the PCV system. So as the engine's running, there's always a little bit of oil vapor coming in through the PCV system. And if you look at this throttle body, you can see how it's kind of got this greasy schmutz deposit all over. Schmutz. It's Yiddish.
It's a technical term.
It's Yiddish for greasy, grimy.
Go for guts.
Go for guts.
Uh-huh.
So, but so it's pretty easy to clean up here, but it's much more difficult to clean down on the valve and inside the combustion chamber. But all of these deposits create drivability concerns for you. Everybody's seen the Shell commercial talking about valve deposit and how it affects the drivability. Here's a picture of a fuel injector. And the problem with a fuel injector is when those deposits get in those areas, that bottom V, a deposit gets there and the injector hangs open. And it's always dripping fuel into the engine. Well, the upper part of the injector picture there, when the deposits get on the tip of that pintle where the hourglass shape is, all of a sudden it stops creating a vapor of the fuel going in, and you get these large droplets of fuel that don't burn efficiently. So you've got to manage the deposits that happen in your engine. Generally, the easiest way to do it is get ahead of it. Don't wait till the deposits are there and then go in and try and clean them up. Keep the system clean using the chemistry that dissolves those deposits, like deposits dissolve themselves. So when you're looking to clean up on the fuel side of things, there are fuel additives that you can use. Using top-tier fuel helps. that'll help keep the deposits clean. When it comes to the oil deposits, that oil vapor that's coming through the PCV kind of layers up over time, kind of like painting a door so many times that it won't close anymore. That's how those oil deposits build up. And you want to clean those up safely. You want to clean them from the top down to the metal. You don't want to get underneath them with an alcohol or a water-based product that expands real quickly, and then all of a sudden you blow these chunks of carbon off into the engine. So you want to do them correctly, safely for the catalytic converter and safely for the oxygen sensor. But you want to do it on a maintenance interval. Don't wait until they're so bad they've created problems. So stay ahead of your car with proper vehicle maintenance.
Very interesting. You know, they do make an additive thing that you can buy at the HEB pump. Have you seen that?
Yeah, Additech.
Yeah, Additech. That's strictly the gasoline side of things.
That's the gasoline side of things.
Yeah. Does that stuff work?
I haven't tested Additech, and we haven't tested Additech, but I would assume they wouldn't be able to sell it unless there was some effective performance of it.
Interesting.
I remember one time the guy down the street bought a car. Well, we're talking a long time ago. $25 car, 65 Ford, inline 6-cylinder. We're going to kind of see what's wrong with the engine. We took the valve cover off. There was so much sludge, it was a black valve cover underneath the valve cover.
Oh, yeah. Everything
was just solid.
There.
Oh, yeah,
Everything
nothing moved.
That's an oil deposit. That's going to be really hard to clean up. The easiest way to clean that up is with a paint scraper and a pressure washer.
We cleaned it up by putting the valve cover back on and told them to haul it away.
Detroit's biggest seller of luxury vehicles isn't Cadillac anymore.
What?
It's GMC. GMC's high-end Denali and AT4 lines are outselling General Motors' traditional luxury brand in the U.S. this year, according to figures from GM and the Automotive News Data Center. Buyers paid an average of $57,218 for a Denali and $53,989 for the AT4, topping BMW, Audi, and Jaguar. GMC's profile will raise further next year with the Hummer electric pickup giving the clunky gas guzzler of the 2000s new life as GM's first electric vehicle.
So it's not the luxury vehicle, it's the luxury pickup truck.
Exactly.
Well, luxury SUVs as well.
Well, that wasn't what he said.
And, mid-engine Corvettes, they hit another production snag this past week, parts shortage that held up the assembly line in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They're going to restart the factory again this coming Monday.
You heard they introduced a new upgrade Corvette. Typically you got the Stingray, the Grand Sport, and then the Z06. Corvette has announced that they are going to be releasing a hybrid Corvette. And what the hybrid Corvette's going to have, it's going to have these hybrid power engine or motors driving the front wheels. So not only do you have a mid-engine Corvette, it's going to be an all-wheel drive Corvette with the front axles electrically driven.
Here we go. Good.
If baby could talk, she'd say a lot. You'd know what she's thinking and what makes her happy. But unfortunately, baby can't talk or remind you. You're the one taking her to daycare today, and she won't speak up if you drive straight to work like any other day and never think to look in the backseat. Every year, dozens of kids die from heat stroke in cars. No one is perfect, so set a reminder and always look before you lock. Where's baby? Paid for by NHTSA.
Well, guess what time it is? It's time to say goodbye, friends. That's it for this episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show. Hey, when you're on Facebook, please give us a like and tell your friends about us. You'll get Konrad's unicorn hunting features, along with all things automotive all week long. The In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com, our website. 30-minute daily podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict, among others. Special thanks to all of our guests today. The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is the fabulous David Ainsley. Our video and marketing inner tube is Jeffrey Zekin. This week's In Wheel Time Car Show is produced and directed by Don Knotts. For booking agent and podcast man Mike Out of This World Mars, his royalty King Konrad DeLong, and more Jeff Zekin, I'm Don Armstrong saying so long for now. We hope you'll join us live from Houston Raceway Park in Baytown for the NHRA Spring Nationals. Yep, next Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to noon, right here on the Smoke and Mirrors Network. Thanks for being part of the In Wheel Time family. We'll see you tonight for the Boobs Rock Show out there at Houston Motorsports Park. So long for now. We'll see you next week.